Hi, I wanted to describe my experience with naturally running into the Sabbath. I didn't know what that was until about a week after it happened. I had sort of a series of events that went down before I had actually read any Neville text. And it wasn't until I read about the Sabbath that I realized that I had experienced it. And at the time, I sort of knew what I was experiencing, but that just confirmed it. So, what happened with me was I made a video yesterday, by the way, about how your 4D reality is as real as your 3D reality, and how understanding that is really the key to getting all of this. And I understood that in sort of a blinding flash. And almost immediately, I wanted to kind of test it. And I thought, oh, what would I like to experience the most right now? And what I wanted to experience was seeing the person that I had broken up with 6 weeks earlier, and just like holding him, or, something, because I love him so much. And, I was the one who ended the relationship, so I wasn't really thinking, like many of you, I was in pain and looking for pain relief, but, I wasn't trying to figure out how to get him back, because I had decided that, sadly, the relationship just didn't work, which sucked. And so, I went right into my imagination, and I was just shocked at how vividly I was able to experience him in that realm, once I had sort of read that it was as real. The suggestion that it was as real and as valid of an experience as an experience in 3D, that just sort of opened the door. And it was such a relief. It was all this pain I'd been carrying around for 6 weeks about him kind of just floated away, because there he was. And I was able to experience it, and almost, in sort of a more perfect way, because I wasn't experiencing it with the problems hanging over me that I experienced it, in the way I experienced it in 3D reality in the past. I could make it whatever I wanted. And so I did that. And my intention with that was just kind of like to experience it, and for that to be that. I was not interested in revisiting that relationship. And so, okay. So after I was able to really experience this vividly, next I was like, well, what do I want? Okay, I want a relationship with someone else. And I tried to do that for like 2 or 3 days. I tried to capture the feeling of what I wanted a relationship to be like, when it's perfect in my mind. And I was really struggling with it. And I remember I was sitting in my car one morning at like 5:30 in the morning in the dark outside the gym, procrastinating because I didn't want to go in. And I thought, this was right before Christmas. It was like 2 weeks before Christmas. And I was just like, man, I can almost capture that feeling of well-being that I would have if, I were with the right person at Christmas, and like we were engaged or just married, or, some exciting time in the relationship where everybody's really happy. If you've ever had that, it helps. But I was just kind of trying to capture the mood, and the last guy that I was with just popped into the scenario in my mind, and instantly the whole thing was real. I was experiencing that thing with him. And so I was like, oh, okay. Well, if he can serve to make me feel this and sort of, will it into existence, then okay, he can be the placeholder. He can be the person that I use in this scene to feel it real and I'll just kind of assume that like somebody else will show up in his place. Well, as I kept doing this and imagining this perfect stuff with him and everything, I just, of course, came to the conclusion, why am I not, why do I have this idea that he has to be this guy from the past? Why can't he be this guy in my imagination? Why am I limiting myself again? Why am I limiting him, for that matter? The thing I'm imagining is amazing, and he would probably love to be a part of that. So that's kind of how I came to the conclusion that I was going to sort of try to manifest somebody or whatever. Because, the desire is there. When you have the desire in these imaginal scenes, that's pretty much all it takes. Like, you don't have to be like, universe, create this, or, although sometimes I say that. But getting back to the Sabbath part of it, this was just such an intensely wonderful experience that I kept wanting to go there. Like, it wasn't happening outside of me. It was happening in 4D. So that's where I wanted to be. And I just did it until I didn't want to do it anymore. Fully loving every second of it. And at some point, maybe I had a busy day or something, and I was just like, this is starting to kind of feel like I'm trying to force it. And, I'm trying to like make time for it. Whereas before I was like willingly, naturally just thinking about it. And so I kind of, it was kind of like, I've eaten pizza every meal for 4 days. I would say that the amount of time that it took from that initial, thing where I was trying to imagine Christmas with somebody where he popped in to the point where I stopped, was probably 3 or 4 days before I got kind of burned out on it. And so, but here's the thing, it didn't go away. Like, I still continued to feel connected to him. Everything I had experienced was so real that I couldn't, it didn't fade. Like, it was just with me, even though I wasn't thinking about it. And there was this sense of certainty about it that I had created it or something. It reminded me of my sense of knowing that I've always had about money. Like, I've always had this feeling like I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about it. I'm a match for money. I don't have to worry about it. And I just kind of got that feeling about him. I'm like, I'm a match for the person in that scene. And, I don't know how divine intelligence works. I don't know how these things set themselves up. I'm not privy to that, but I know that they do. And I just sort of let that go. And, a side note about it is that I've never been attached to it actually happening. In fact, that thought just doesn't enter my mind. I can't really quite explain it. I don't think about it. I'm not looking for it. I'm not like, well, if this hasn't happened by blah, blah date, then I'm just not thinking about it because I know that I will cross that bridge when I come to it. If there comes a time when, there's a disconnect or something, I know I'll feel it and I'll move forward in some other way. Like, I'm just not at all worried about it. And, I've never done something like this before intentionally. And so I don't really know how this plays out. But when you stop feeling like you want to go and be there in 4D in the state that, you want to be in, in 3D right now, that's when you're in the Sabbath. That's what that is. It's when you go, oh, I'm like the kid after Halloween who's pigged out on their candy bag. I'm good. That's what the feeling is for me. And, another thing that's worth noting is that if you don't feel a big draw to experiencing whatever it is you want in your 4D reality, I think you have to think about whether or not you really want it. Because, for me, like, I wanted to be there in that state. If you don't want to do it, or you're so worried about whether you're doing it right that it's a chore, you're not doing it right. The idea is to go into the 4D and take on the state by experiencing it there, where it is as real as 3D. You will actually experience it, and honestly, if you're honest with yourself, it's probably going to be a better experience than whatever you experienced in the past with this person, since you're not with them now. That's basically it. You should feel drawn to it. When you're there, it should feel amazing. If you want it to feel amazing in real life, I mean, if you can't experience it as amazing there, you really have to ask yourself why. What is it about this scene that I can't connect to? And, if it stems back to, I'm not worth it, there's something wrong with me, great, because you have 100% control over fixing that. So I hope that this illuminated something for somebody. I know this is like a really confusing thing. People want a specified period of time that is going to work every time, and it just isn't like that. You have to use your inner guidance system to tell you when you're done. And you will take the state with you. Like I was out shopping for baking accoutrement for Christmas when I was going to make cookies, and I saw a box of candy with my previous boyfriend's name on it. It was a kind of candy that I knew he would like, and I was just like, what is this? I have to get this for him. Like I have to get this. And it was completely natural. I was just like, I know I'm going to see him again, and I got to get this candy for him. And it was the most natural thing in the world. It was like I was buying it for my boyfriend. And I'm fully aware that he is not my boyfriend in 3D. So, there you have it.